I know that this methods versus computed versus watchers thing can be very confusing, so it's time for a short summary. Methods can be used in your template to bind data, to use them in an interpolation, for example, to derive data that should be used in the template, or for event binding. You can use methods for both. And if you use them in the data binding use case, so if you use them between curly braces, for example, to outsource logic from the template to your Vue instance, then the method is executed for every re-render cycle of the component. So whenever something changes and the template is re-evaluated, every method that's called in the template will be called again. That's what I showed you a couple of lectures ago. And therefore, you should use methods primarily for event binding. There, it's a no-brainer. You always use them. Or for data binding, so with double curly braces, for example, if you really want them to re-execute whenever something changes on the page. Otherwise, use computed properties, because those can only be used with data binding. You don't use them with event binding. And computed properties are great to derive data that's based on other data, with the advantage that they will only be re-evaluated and re-executed by Vue if the dependent data changed. So if the data used inside of the computed property changed, they will not be re-evaluated if some other data changed. And therefore, use them for data that depends on other data. Last but not least, watchers are not directly used in the template. You don't reference them there, but you can watch any property, even computed properties, with them. And that allows you to run code in reaction to some change data. For example, to send a HTTP request, set a timer, store something in local storage, whatever it is. So typically, you should use watchers for any non-data updates you want to make. Whenever you got some behind-the-scenes work to do based on some changing data, you might want to consider a watcher. Amongst the three, watchers are probably the feature you'll use the least, because you need methods all the time with event binding and computed properties for outputting data that depends on other data.